Our guest is someone whose name is across India, whose titles are many, but whose story is much bigger than all of these.
Arrows that go into your quiver.
Yeah, yeah.
You have a bow in your hand, and at what time, in which point in life, which arrow fate desires you to pull? I was very much on the path of becoming an entrepreneur. My father used to say कि राजनीति हमारा मकसद नहीं होना चाहिए, हमारा मकसद जनसेवा होना चाहिए और राजनीति केवल एक माध्यम होनी चाहिए उस लक्ष्य की पूर्ति करने के लिए. If there's something that I value the most in my life today, it is my bond and my attachment with the Gwalior region and with the soil of Madhya Pradesh.
How do you envision the Scindia school evolving in the next 10 to 15 years?
Building a class of nation builders. We've got the school band that plays down the pathway on Republic Day parade. Could you have a more complicated construct of a sentence? We have a young budding engineer at the school today. That crest on the blazer is not a simple crest. The time you spent in Astachal.
Yeah.
A self-sustaining legacy. Leadership is about cliched phrase for the three musketeers, all for one and one for all. अब बड़ी आध्यात्मिक बात मैंने आपको कह दी है.
नहीं.
जो व्यक्ति अपने सिद्धांत, अपने मूल्यों के प्रति अडिग रहेगा, वो व्यक्ति नेतृत्व करने के रास्ते पर निकल चुका है. बहुत मुश्किल बात है कि लकीर के फकीर बनकर रहना.
What role do you see the alumni playing in shaping that journey? We talk about.
Alumni have a very, very seminal role to play. I'm generally philosophical in nature. Tell me the harsh, bitter truth. And sometimes it's not sweet, but something that the Prime Minister told us, try and attain moksha.
How do you define moksha?
You come to this world naked, you go to from this world without any clothes. I know this is the age of instant coffee, but relationships are not instant coffee.
If you had a free day with no responsibilities, how do you spend it?
And I wish I did. Gwalior is a Kohinoor, it's a diamond.
क्या कोई खजाना है?
सिंधिया परिवार का एक ही खजाना है.
Sir, if you had to survive a day undercover as a student at Scindia today, what would be your strategy to avoid getting caught by the teachers?
Oh, I'd love to get caught by the teachers. You don't come to school to be picture perfect.
Yeah, of course.
But because it's not what I would want you guys to do, but first experience is the last experience.
If you had to organize a cricket match between politicians, royals and celebrities, who would be your dream team captain and who's definitely going to get out on the first ball?
Well,
who do you think it would be?
I don't know, but whoever that is, he's gone.
What is the history behind your name?
But the car I'd like to drive would not get me there. And
so if the world only saw your public achievements and not the man behind them, what story about yourself would you most want them to know?
Well, the funny scene that I can recount is the 125th anniversary of the Scindia school when I was just shaking a leg with all my fellow Scindians on the stage. It was an amazing environment. It got me to do things that I would not normally do.
Namaskar and welcome everyone to a very special episode of the Scindian podcast. Today, I'm not just excited, I'm a little starstruck. Usually people say royal conversations as a metaphor, but today we are having the real deal, guys. Our guest is someone whose name is across India, whose titles are many, but whose story is much bigger than all of these. If I start listing his achievements, we would need a whole Netflix series, guys. Yes, we are joined by none other than His Highness Maharaja JyotiradityaScindia, and now Sir wears many crowns, some symbolic, some literal too. So from being a guardian of history to shaping India's future, he proves royalty isn't just about palaces and titles, but about passion, vision and service. Usually I put my guests in the hot seat, but today I feel like I'm the one under royal trial. Hopefully Sir won't look at me and say, Yuvraj, enough questions, guards take him away. I don't think so that is going to happen, but jokes aside, today's conversation is not just about politics and positions. It's about something much more meaningful. Discovering who is JyotiradityaScindia as a person, his journey, his inspirations, and his vision. And yes, maybe a few untold stories that even history books forgot to mention. Sir, are there any?
There are many.
Sir, can you recount anyone and just let our viewers know that you think should be mentioned in the history books but wasn't?
Well, first of all, let me say this. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Thank you, sir.
And it's always a pleasure to be here among the fort pupils. This is a wonderful labyrinth that allows inner spirits to evolve. It's a wonderful labyrinth that allows true leadership to emerge. And I'm kind of very envious with all of you at this point of time, not only in life, but also in terms of the point at which our country is at, where people like yourselves, Jyotiraditya and Adi and everyone else here at the school, will go on to play a very, very fundamental and seminal role in the days to come of India's rise. Having said that, you asked me for a vignette that is not part of history. And there are many vignettes of this fort, this environment, that are still to be anecdoted in the annals of history. This fort has been witness to many civilizations, to many cultures that have come and gone, left their imprints on this fort. Today, you are part of that generation that is going to do the same. And there are many stories that I would love Scindians, and apart from Scindians, people across our country to relish about the mountaintop that we are situated in. There are many parts of science and technology that are vested here in this fort. I don't know whether you had the chance to experience that, but you've learned in physics the principle of refraction and reflection.
Yeah.
And that was in place in Mansingh Palace, going down 7 stories into the basement, where light permeated, where there was no possibility of that happening, through circular discs of reflective mirrors that would do that, going down 7 stories. You also had, much before Alexander Graham Bell, the first intercom, which went down 6 stories, a separate pipe to hear from, a separate pipe to speak from, and being the telecom minister today, intercom system in our country, close to about in a 6th century fort, which again is not documented. But I think there are many stories like this, and I would love for you all to have that opportunity with your history teacher, with your science teachers, to walk this ground and discover those stories, which will become part of your DNA as you walk through life.
What do you think is the main reason why these stories, which are so beautiful in nature, are not documented in history books? Something like telecommunication, you said.
Well, I think not everything is necessarily documented in history books.
Yeah.
And I don't think everything should be part of pedagogy and curriculum. Some parts have to be left to the art part of it.
Yeah.
Documentation is the scientific part. The art part is folklore. The art part is stories that go down generations, right? And there's a beauty and a plethora of that in our country. However, I must add a caveat that it's also a very fast dying treasure, because those generations that have held that intellectual property very close to their hearts. And I remember as a child coming up here to the fort, and we would have guides and storytellers who would tell the same rudimentary story in such a beautiful manner that it would captivate you for the period that you were with them. But that's an art. Unfortunately, that's also dying.
Yeah.
And it's very important for us as a country to be able to preserve that.
Definitely.
The art of storytelling,
Yeah.
right? Think about it. When you were a child and your mother would tell you a story,
Yeah. My
lull you,
grandmother would tell me a lot of
yeah,
stories that,
and
yeah.
it would lull you to sleep, and you'd
Yeah.
always remember them,
Exactly.
right? And the same story, if you heard from a teacher, it won't have the same effect.
Yeah. The way of speaking depends, I
It
think.
makes a big difference.
Yeah. So, at a very young age, you were entrusted with responsibility and given a platform that many only dreams of, right? Of course, you carried it with distinction and made your own mark. There is no doubt about it. But I wish to ask you with the deepest respect, if destiny had not given you that early beginning, do you feel your inner conviction, discipline, and vision would still have guided you to the heights where you stand today?
I don't think that's a question that I can answer. I think that is in the womb of time. But always remember one thing, Yuvraj, that you in life must gather all experiences as you walk down that path. You must always try and step out of your comfort zone. Always remember that no experience is a wasted period of time. If I can give you a metaphor, these are all, in a way, arrows that go into your quiver.
Yeah.
You have a bow in your hand, and at what time, in which point in life, which arrow fate desires you to pull
Yeah.
is not necessarily up to you. But in that reservoir of experience, you must house all those arrows, because you never know when that has to be used. If I had not stepped into public service at the age of 30, I was very much on the path of becoming an entrepreneur. At Stanford Business School, we'd gone through a business plan competition, uh, which my team and I had won. We were looking at setting up a very high-tech venture in the millennium, I would say, so 2000, 99 to 2000, based in India. We'd already gotten pretty much halfway there in terms of identifying the talent we wanted on board, looking at funding sources. But then fate has a way of dealing you cards, and your ability and your mettle is tested at that point of time, of whether you can rise to that occasion. And it is these arrows that you have gathered in your quiver, the quiver of experience, that come to play a part when you are put in a position of uncharted waters, and you have to define the path forward. So there's a lot of that I drew from my multiple experience, whether it was my undergraduate time at Harvard or being a banker for 6 years with Morgan Stanley, or my business school years. There's a lot I drew from that in terms of, in many ways, if you will, combining the science of public service along with the art
Yeah.
of putting emotion into that.
I think that answered a lot, most of the part of the question. So, if the world only saw your public achievements and not the man behind them, what story about yourself would you most want them to know?
Well, that's a very introspective question, and I think it'd be tough for me to say what story about me I would want them to know. But I will only say this, that and this is something I imbibed from both my grandmother and my father, which is, for us, it has never been the pursuit of politics. It has been the passion of public service. And my father used to say कि राजनीति हमारा मकसद नहीं होना चाहिए, हमारा मकसद जनसेवा होना चाहिए और राजनीति केवल एक माध्यम होनी चाहिए उस लक्ष्य की पूर्ति करने के लिए. So for us, the Scindia family, public service is the goal. Politics is not the goal. And so for me, it has been more than a mathematical journey, it has been an emotional journey. And if there's something that I value the most in my life today, it is my bond and my attachment with the Gwalior Chambal region and with the soil of Madhya Pradesh.
As the president of the Board of Governors, how do you envision the Scindia school evolving in the next 10 to 15 years? And what core values? It's basically two questions amalgamated into one. So, and what legacy rooted in its core values should it leave for India and the world, especially in shaping not just academic excellence, but also ethical, responsible, and globally aware citizens in today's rapidly changing educational landscape?
Could you have a more complicated construct of a sentence? But in that complicated construct of your sentence and your question is hidden the answer. That is exactly what the Scindia school stands for. Humility in success, discipline in conduct, selfless in service, and brotherhood for life. These are the four tenets, if you will, or four really lifeblood principles that this institution looks to imbibe in every single young person that walks through its portals. And what the school hopes to achieve, and going back to your question, the core must remain the same. The core remains the same. Your vision evolves. As your vision evolves, your goals and your mission evolve. And the core was set by my ancestor, Maharaja Madhavrao Scindia I in 1897 when he founded the school. And the whole concept of founding the school was to prepare the leaders of tomorrow's India. The leaders of tomorrow's India that imbibe these four very simple yet profound principles. Ensuring that you have humility in success, ensuring that you have discipline in conduct, ensuring that you build a spirit of brotherhood for life with the people that you grow up with, literally, for 5 years here at the fort. And finally, selflessness of spirit in terms of the tasks that you take forward. Building a class of nation builders and not concentrated in one walk of life. If you look at the true Scindian, he is at heart an Indian. And that true Scindian has the capability of having empathy, having compassion, and at the same time having leadership capability, and making sure, like as a captain, the team moves to be able to win. So it's not individual success, but team and group success that we concentrate on. And those are the very core principles that the school was built on 128 years ago. And those are the core principles that are enshrined in it today. But however, as the environment changes, you build that leadership based on the core tenets going forward. And so we have a young budding engineer at the school today who's built drones that can fly human beings.
Yeah.
Right? And this was something that was written in our Arthashastras but he's made it possible today. And that for you is leadership.
Yeah.
We've got the school band that plays down the pathway on Republic Day parade, right? So the Scindian shines for India on that day.
Is this
And that's the ethos that people like you will walk with in the future.
sure, sir? We will. But you talked about leadership, so I want to ask
And
you.
so when you wear that blazer,
Yeah.
that crest on the blazer is not a simple crest. It's a testament, it is a manifestation of these values. And that's what differentiates you from every other human being on this planet. The time you spent in Astachal,
Yeah.
आध्यात्मिक शक्ति का आकलन व्यक्ति स्वतः करे उन 10 मिनटों में, right? It's a time of introspection. So the institution is teaching you meditation. The institution is teaching you introspection. And those are things that today big corporates ask all their employees to do. But we've been teaching that for 128 years.
That's why we are an epicenter of learning. So you talked about leadership.
Fountainhead of energy. I would call it more than that. Epicenter of learning is one, but a fountainhead of energy.
Yeah. So you talked about leadership, sir. I want to ask you, in today's context, how do you conceptualize leadership?
So to me, leadership is not about individualism. Leadership is about the ability to create a self-sustaining legacy. Systems that will prevail much beyond the time that you and I have to walk this earth. People look at leaders even today, whether it was the 2nd of October, Gandhi Jayanti. So it's not only that we Indians look to him, the world, 8 billion people look to him, right? For the values that he embodied, for the path that he walked on. Had 1 billion people following him, right? And the values and principles that he embodied, that is what we aspire towards as a human being today. That is leadership. A. B. Leadership is about not only being driven, but having an emotional connect with your team, such that the team with you strives towards the goal that all of you have set for yourselves. So the feeling of, if I will, cliched phrase, for the 3 musketeers, all for one and one for all. That for you is leadership.
गांधी जयंती भी थी, लाल बहादुर शास्त्री जी की भी जयंती थी. उनका नेतृत्व करने का तरीका बिल्कुल अलग था, गांधी जी का उस समय के अनुसार बिल्कुल अलग था. तो लीडरशिप, अगर मैं नेतृत्व अगर कोई कर रहा है तो किस कॉन्टेक्स्ट में जो चेंजेस थे, या मुझे लगता है बहुत आयरॉनिकल वे ऑफ लीडरशिप, क्या हम कह सकते हैं इनको? लाल बहादुर शास्त्री जी जिस प्रकार से नेतृत्व करते थे और जिस प्रकार से गांधी जी ने
नेतृत्व एक तरीके के बारे में, एक तरीके का, एक वैचारिक विचारधारा का, एक सोच की दृष्टिकोण नहीं होती. नेतृत्व होती है कि आपने कैसे सामान्य मानवीय पर एक अमिट छाप छोड़ा हो. चाहे लाल बहादुर शास्त्री जी हो, महात्मा गांधी जी हो, चाहे मदर टेरेसा हो, चाहे स्वामी विवेकानंद हो, इन अलग अलग हस्तियों ने हर व्यक्ति पर अपना एक अमिट छाप छोड़ा है। वो नेतृत्व की क्षमता है कि ताकि हम जैसे सामान्य मानवी उनके बताए हुए असूलों पर, उनके बताए हुए सिद्धांतों पर, उनके बताए हुए मूल्यों पर चलने का प्रयत्न करें। नेल्सन मंडेला, who followed महात्मा गांधी, एंड उनकी पुरानी कहावत है, आई ड्रीम ऑफ not the way things are, but I dream of the things that have never been. It's a very fundamental way of thinking of bringing about change, right?
Yeah.
These are very simple notions, but very difficult to enact in one's life. And if you get inspiration to be able to do that, that is leadership.
क्या हम ये कह सकते हैं कि नेतृत्व करने का कॉन्टेक्स्ट के हिसाब से तरीका अलग अलग हो सकता है, पर उसका मूल भाव एक ही रहता है, जन कल्याण?
ये मूल भाव भी मैं नहीं मानता कि मूल भाव ही एक ही होता है। आप नेतृत्व को एक कॉन्टेक्सचुअल इक्वेशन में नहीं डाल सकते। नेतृत्व एक अपार क्षमता होती है जिसकी कोई सीमा नहीं होती। उसको आप एक कटघरे में नहीं, एक स्क्वायर बॉक्स में नहीं डाल सकते। आपकी नेतृत्व करने की क्षमता किसी और क्षेत्र में होगी, किसी और की दूसरी क्षेत्र में होगी, और हम जैसे सामान्य मानवी उसे पहचान पाएं कि आप में जो खूबी है, उस हुनर है उस क्षेत्र में, और इनका हुनर कौन से क्षेत्र में। तो हर इंसान में, भगवान ने हर इंसान, इस पृथ्वी पर हर इंसान को के अंदर नेतृत्व करने की क्षमता रखी है। बस यही है कि आप उस ज्योति पुंज की अलख जगा पाओगे कि नहीं इस जीवन में। ये चुनौती आप पर, हम पर, ये चुनौती भगवान ने छोड़ी। अब बड़ी आध्यात्मिक बात मैंने आपको कह दी है।
नहीं,
पर अध्यात्म में मैं बहुत विश्वास रखता हूँ।
So back to
तो सिंपल पॉइंट, अपने प्रिंसिपल्स के साथ, अपने सिद्धांतों के साथ कभी भी जिंदगी में समझौता मत करना। जो व्यक्ति अपने सिद्धांत, अपने मूल्यों के प्रति अडिग रहेगा, वो व्यक्ति नेतृत्व करने के रास्ते पर निकल चुका है। सबसे आसान बात है प्रगति के लिए और विकास में अपने सिद्धांतों के साथ समझौता करना। बहुत मुश्किल बात है कि लकीर के फकीर बनकर रहना, और यही इंसान की टेस्ट है। चाहे आप सिंधिया स्कूल में 11वीं क्लास या 12वीं क्लास में हो, और चाहे आप जिंदगी के रास्ते पर निकल चुके हो, टेस्ट वही रहेगा।
Back to the Scindia school. What role do you see the alumni playing in shaping that journey we talked about?
Alumni have a very, very seminal role to play. Alumni are the torch bearers of the institution. Alumni are the flag bearers of the institution. And alumni is what the institution is known for. That's not necessarily the talent that the Scindia School has produced, but it has given the grooming, the principles, the ability to hone that talent in that individual in the 6 years that the individual has spent at the Scindia School. And then the flowering takes place. If you take the example of a butterfly, the chrysalis takes place, right? But you have been imbued with those principles, those values, that environment at the Scindia school at the fort.
Talking with you again, this was one question which intrigued my mind a lot of times, much before. But how do you stay grounded and connected to your real self amid the intense public spotlight and expectations too?
So two things. I'm generally philosophical in nature, but I'm also very lucky in that I have my family and one or two close friends who I count more than family, who tell me the harsh, bitter truth. And sometimes it's not sweet, but you've got to have that ability to be able to take constructive criticism, and more than that, hopefully try and internalize it and try and change. In the recent past, one of the things that have worked, it's very important in life, Yuvraj, to not only work others, but it's as important to work yourself. And it's very important for a human being to identify what is his or her goal in life, right? As I said to you, I believe a lot in philosophy, and I believe that a human being has been born on this earth to hopefully try and attain moksha. And if that is your goal, then you have to continually assess yourself. You've got to continually improve yourself. And you must never believe that you're perfect. Because the day you believe that you're perfect is उस दिन से ढलान शुरू हो जाती है. And so one of the things that I've tried to imbibe is something that the Prime Minister told us in our cabinet once. And he said, every Friday, take some time out, maybe only half an hour, 20 minutes. Sit with your core team, right? People who work with you. And ask them, what went right this week? And ask them, what went wrong this week? How is it that we can do better? And if you're able to do that, and I don't end up doing it every week, but I end up doing it every fortnight. But then you have to be, it's not just feedback that you take and then it lies in the repository, which one never approaches again. But then if you note it down and then you action points to be able to improve on that, then you'll bring about change in yourself. So I found that very useful.
How do you define moksha?
There are multiple ways to define it. Many people say it's detachment. Many people say that it's an inner realization of the self. Many people say that it's about spiritualism. For me, because I have not evolved to that extent, but for me, I have a very simple principle in life, and my principle in life is that you come to this world naked, you go to from this world without any clothes. The only thing that you can take with you is the love and the heartfelt feelings of people.
The blessings of them.
So develop that. And how do you develop that? You can only develop that if you develop relationships. And how do you develop relationships? You can only develop relationships if you give of yourself and don't expect in return.
Time plays a very important and a vital role in developing relationships, do you think?
Oh, of course. I know this is the age of instant coffee, but relationships are not instant coffee. Takes years, takes decades.
If you had a free day with no responsibilities, how do you spend it?
If I did, and I wish I did, it's a very simple thing for me. I'd either be uh, in the sea, in water, I love water, nature, or I'd be in the forest. Both areas where you have complete tranquility, the ability to be able to hear the cracking of a twig in the forest, the ability to be able to discern the sound of a langur versus a sambar versus a cheetal, right? To hear the call of different birds, to be able to be one with nature. And we don't, as human beings, get enough of it. We don't treasure it enough. But one of the things that I love doing when I go to a wildlife park is in a drive, just switching my car off, and just sitting in silence for 20 minutes.
Don't
You'll
you
never get that anywhere.
Yeah, of course. Don't you think it's ironical, the Minister of Communication talking about, today our generation, if we get a free time, we generally scroll reels on Instagram because you talked about instant coffee, right? We need instant dopamine. Don't you think it's ironical when
Not
you...
at all. You're communicating.
Yeah.
You sit in silence and you listen to nature. You're communicating with nature. There are parts of yourself. You're all made up of molecules and particles. So when you study physics and chemistry, right, and you look at chemical reactions, you're made up of a chemical reaction, right? And when you sit in silence, you're communicating. You're internalizing.
So now moving on to the rapid fire questions.
Okay.
So, Sir, Gwalior has such rich history and heritage. Which hidden story or legend from your family or city would you love to share?
Gwalior is a Kohinoor. It's a diamond. It's an unpolished diamond, and there's a beauty of its being an unpolished diamond. And people have to come in and experience Gwalior, the Olis of Gwalior, the fort of Gwalior, the nature of Gwalior. And that by itself is a experience that will last a lifetime.
क्या कोई खजाना है? ये सौरभ द्विवेदी जी ने भी पूछा था. मेरा प्रश्न है कि अगर कोई खजाना आपको मिलता तो आप उसका कैसे इस्तेमाल करते?
मैं मानता हूँ कि सिंधिया परिवार का एक ही खजाना है, और वो है लोगों का प्यार, लोगों के साथ संबंध. इससे कोई बड़ी पूंजी नहीं हो सकती.
Sir, if you had to survive a day undercover as a student at Scindia today, what would be your strategy to avoid getting caught by the teachers?
Oh, I'd love to get caught by the teachers.
No,
Why would you not? School is about that, right? You don't come to school to be picture perfect,
Yeah, of course.
right? You've got to have those rough edges that need to be ironed out, and getting caught by the teachers is part of that.
कभी ऐसा हुआ सर?
When I was in school, yes. Many times.
Any such?
And you learn from that. I would just recount it at dinner to the principal. I won't recount it to you, but because it's not what I would want you guys to do, but I did recount it to the principal. You can ask him offline.
Okay, sure. If you had to pick up a cricket nickname for yourself based on your ministerial style, what would it be?
Power play.
Why?
Because I believe that the first experience is the last experience. I think you set the trend in the first couple of weeks when you come into a department. And it's very important for you to be able to make the environment understand what your DNA is about, what your expectations are.
So, if someone wrote a book about the real Jyotiraditya ji, beyond titles and legacy, what chapter would you want everyone to read first?
Oh, none.
If you have
I don't have such a vaulted view of myself. I believe that all of us are here for a very limited period of time to play our part. The only thing that I would say is that you've got to be able to look at yourself in the mirror every night before you go to bed. And you got to be able to say to yourself, I did good, I did right, I did my best. If you're able to say those three things, you're good.
If you had to organize a cricket match between politicians, royals, and celebrities, who would be your dream team captain and who's definitely going to get out on the first ball?
Well, the dream team captain is not a difficult one. For me, it would be Kapil Dev, because not only because of having known him and him having known my father, but his energy, his effusive capability, his ability to lead under pressure, his ability to be able to deliver under pressure. India's not had many captains like him, so without a shadow of doubt. And what is your second question?
Who's definitely going to get out on the first ball?
Oh, that depends on who wants to make the best impression in the shortest period of time. He's gone.
Who do you think it would be?
I don't know, but whoever that is, he's gone. He'll either be caught behind or he'll be caught in mid-off.
Sure. If you could invite any sports personality or traveler from history to join you for a day, who would it be and what would you like to learn from them?
Repeat the question. If I would
If
like,
you could invite any sports personality or traveler from history to join you for a day, who would it be and what would you like to learn from him? Or, yeah.
sports person, definitely Don Bradman. I've had the honor of having met with him. I believe it was in 1987 when I met with him with my father in Australia. And in that generation, the tenacity and the capability that he showed was something that we all look up to.
What is the history behind your name?
Oh, behind my name, it's a very simple history. My parents had a different view and a different name. They wanted to name me Vikramaditya. My grandmother, Rajmata Sahib, wanted to name me after my ancestral Kul Devta, Jyotiba. So they resolved their differences and hugged each other and said, okay, fine, we'll take half of yours and half of yours. And so Jyotiba became Jyoti and Vikramaditya became Aditya, and so it became Jyotiraditya.
Oh. Any funny scene that you can recount?
Well, the funny scene that I can recount is the 125th anniversary of the Scindia school, when I was just shaking a leg with all my fellow Scindians on the stage. It was an amazing environment. Got me to do things that I would not normally do.
What life lesson took you the longest to embrace and how has it transformed your approach to leadership in life?
Wow, that's a very deep question. Yeah, I think that I don't know whether I have been completely successful at that, but many times what happens is that it's not important of to your what your perception of yourself is to yourself. It is how you're perceived by the people who are at the receiving end of your views or your perception. And I think to be able to internalize that and to be able to change yourself on that dimension is a difficult paradigm which I have been trying to work at.
Last question. If you could take a road trip anywhere in the world with any car, which destination and which car would you choose? And who would be your ideal co-passenger?
So that is a little bit of a complicated one for me, because the car I'd like to choose probably would not get to the destination that I would like to get to. So the destination for me would be north of Leh and Ladakh, kissing the borders of Afghanistan, because that's where that's the territory till where Sabaji Scindia and Maji Scindia went to, and so to pay homage to my ancestors. But the car I'd like to drive would not get me there, and the car I'd like to drive would be a Jaguar E-Type.
Oh.
And the reason I would like to drive that is because it represents classic heritage, but it also has speed and elan, which probably no other car in the world ever has had.
And who would be your ideal co-passenger for the same?
My wife. She loves adventure.
So let's imagine this. If the Scindia school were a car, which car do you think it would be and why?
Oh, definitely the Jag E-Type.
Why?
For those very reasons I said. Either that or a rugged Land Rover, which goes everywhere where man cannot imagine.
And which is your favorite book you'd love to read?
I don't have a favorite book. I love reading, but let me be honest with you and confess that I don't get enough time to read. But I do love reading, and I do love reading across multiple dimensions, not necessarily only economics or only history, foreign relations, across the board. But I don't get enough time to. But when I do, I pick up interesting books that. So I've read a lot of Maratha history, for example. I've read on the Battle of Panipat. I've read on Shivaji Maharaj, and then I've read Esther Duflo's Nobel laureate's latest book on bridging poverty and bringing about equality. So I've read across the board.
Finally, what message or advice would you like to leave for our viewers as they navigate their own journeys in life?
Oh, nothing complicated. Be true to yourself. Be honest. Be a good human being. At the end of the day, that's what life is about. It's not about how much money you have in your bank, how many titles you have to your name, how many doctorates you've done, or how many ministers you've become. It's about these three things.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very
so
much.
much for your time. Yeah.
It's been a pleasure.